Welcome to SBU 405D Project Management. My name is Felicia Friediden Alqua. I'm going to be taking you through Unit 1, which is the nature of project and project management. In this session 3, we're going to be looking at project governance, stakeholder roles, and responsibilities. And by the end of this session, you should be able to explain the purpose of project governance. You should be able to state the responsibility of the project sponsor, the roles and responsibilities of the project manager, and some interpersonal skills and competencies every project manager should have. So let's go in and let's see that. So yes, every project, like every company, there's supposed to be some sort of governance, or like any business, there's supposed to be some sort of governance or governance structure in there if you're going to really get the results and be successful. And we're saying that a single point of accountability for the success of the project, governance is very important. And so we need to be able to appoint someone who is specified specifically to manage the project, which is what we call the project manager. And they have clear roles and responsibility. Some projects you may see them being called project leads, or yes, project leads, project managers. Those are all terminologies that usually we use in there. So someone has to be in charge of the project. Every group, there's supposed to be a leader. If there's no leader, everybody is leading themselves. Sometimes there may be chaos in there. And so there's a need to appoint, especially our project managers or leads in there. And it's saying that there's also the need for what? Project ownership and independence of assets and service ownership, or any other stakeholder group. We may need to also look out there, because there are people who actually own the project. There are people who actually providing the resources and things we need for this project, and so we need to be able to cater for all these things as well. And there's supposed to be a separation of the management, stakeholder management, and project decision making activities. Just like for companies, you realize that the managing team or the managerial team which makes decision is always different from the board of directors and the top level people. And so we say that it is very key to separate project stakeholder management and then decision making activities. Else at the end of the day, it may also bring some sort of chaos in. And separation of the project governance and organizational governance structure should also be done in there. And there should be a uniform mechanism to actually assess complaints. These are all things we need to look out for when we are looking out for the governance of a project. And there should be common methods of communication. So if we believe everybody is active on emails and they are better, we should go with emails. If we think that Ghanaians are a bit some way, let's just do phone calls. If there's anything, call. If there's anything, there should be a memo. If anything, there's supposed to be some sort of registration or paper thing done. There should be that clear common methods of communication. There should also be that agreed level of requirements and specifications to get that standard we want in there. And there should be effective risk management. Every project comes with its own risk, and we need to manage risk. That's why we spoke about risk and safety controls in the earlier session. And you should be able to have an effective up-to-date plan and project progress reporting. Yes, these are very important when it comes to important issues or things to look out for. So for most projects, it may be a project governance board, which actually may include various stakeholder groups and user groups. And the framework for most project governance is made up of 3 main components, which is the decision-making structure, the people within the structure, and then the information that informs the people within the structure. And so we've talked about stakeholders. Basically, stakeholders are people who have an influence the project. These could be sponsors, they could be the communities like we made mention of earlier in the the various types of stakeholders, which we have the active and the inactive. And so for every project governance, these three components matter a lot: the decision-making structure, the people within this decision-making structure or the structures we have in our project, and then information that informs these people. And that's why in the earlier slide, we're talking about communication in there. There should be a common communication in there as well. So yes, to go on, usually our project stakeholders can be one or more of these. Usually you can have like 3, 4, 5. You can even have a project which is large enough or big enough to have all of these, but generally you'd have a blend or a mix of these key persons or positions in there. You have owners of the project, those that actually conceptualized the project and brought it up. You'd have sponsors, those who are actually putting their monies in to support the project, usually with some sort of rewards to them. And so some sponsors may come in for you to market or advertise their project as well. When you go to any stadium to watch any match, you see sponsors and you see their logos and things being posted around. You see them talking about it just to also hail themselves. Those who sponsor even the teams, you see the jerseys, they all have their branded sponsors in there, which is also what's selling them out. So these people provide money and they also get something in return, which usually may be marketing of them or something. You also have the customers. These are very key in there because these are the people who are going to make use of the deliverables or make use of the project, and they are the ones you want to target to add value to their lives. You have the end users. Your end users are the people who are going to use the final output or the thing you are putting out in there. So if your project, you're working on introducing a new product into the market, you realize that those who would actually go and buy that final product and use it in their homes, in their offices, wherever they find themselves, they become the end users and they are key stakeholders in there as well. You have contractors and performing organizations. So like most road projects, most housing project, construction and things, you have the contractors who go in for these projects and they help execute or perform these as well. You have suppliers. You need inputs for your project, and so the resources are going to come from somewhere, and so the suppliers are very key because you realize in our triple constraint, resources is there, and your suppliers can make and unpick you and give you a lot of issues if it's not well managed there. There is also the project managers, and like I made mention, every project has to have a lead in there. There should be a manager in charge. There should be someone who is overall responsibility of coordinating everything in there, else there's going to be chaos, and someone has to be accountable for the things of the project. And so there's a need for us to have project management, and things cannot be done by just the manager. The project manager is going to need a team to work with, and so for every project you may have one or even more teams in there. There may be sub teams to tackle the various themes or issues you are delving into that project. For very complex or very big projects, you may have numerous teams in there, and for smaller projects you may have just one team in there as well. And you have the society and citizens as well. We made mention earlier that in the passive stakeholders, you'd have people like the community or the citizens who also are going to be affected indirectly by your activities in there. Then we have the government, the public, the media and co. All these are others who also are affected by your project, and they also have interest in your project. And so basically stakeholders are those who have influence or are influenced by your project. They affect or are affected by your project. And we made mention of in the earlier session, in the first session, that these can either be passive or active in there. So the project sponsors, what are they responsible for? They are responsible for leadership on culture and values. Culture and values. Every project has its own culture. They have in every organization have their own culture values in there. And they actually also own the business case and keep the project aligned with the organization's strategy or portfolio direction. They govern the project risks and work with other sponsors. They focus on the realization of benefits and recommends opportunities to actually optimize cost over benefits. For every activity you do, you should be able to measure the cost versus the benefits. And we're saying that you need to be a bit economical in there. Economical in the sense that the cost should never outweigh the benefit. The benefit should always outweigh the cost. The benefit could be more monetary or it could be non-monetary, but at the end of the day, your cost should not outweigh. So what does project sponsors do? Project sponsors make timely decisions and clarifications for the decision-making process, and they also clarify the business priorities and strategies, as well as the communication and business issues. They provide the various resources and engenders trust. Yes, so they may be providing the money and all those things in there. Some may sponsor you in kind. So sponsorship can always be cash or in kind. Sometimes they may not give you money, but if you're constructing and Gasem is supposed to be a sponsor, they would obviously give you a lot of cement to use for your construction as well. And they manage relationships and supports the project manager's role in promoting ethical working in them. Sponsors, because of their names and integrity and things, they also keep a check on your project, and so they're not just going to let you do just anything anyhow. They would want to make sure that things are being ethically done or rightly done. You're obeying the standards and the procedures. Else, their names and reputation is also at risk in there as well. So to go further, they also engage shareholders, other stakeholders and governance, stakeholder communications. They also direct client relationship. They direct the governance of users and direct the governance of suppliers. Arbitrates between stakeholders. And these are some roles that project sponsors actually do, the responsibilities which are required of them. So they are supposed to engage stakeholders and governance communication. They are supposed to direct client relationship. They are supposed to direct governance users and direct the governance of suppliers and arbitrate between stakeholders. These are some of the key responsibilities of the project. So as a project manager, you are the leader of the team, and so your roles and responsibilities form a functional manager or operational manager who typically focuses on providing management oversight for that functional unit in which they find themselves in there. So they're saying that usually if you're a project manager, then you are in charge of that project. You are the one who is leading or taking the front for that project. And every project has to have a manager. There should be a lead in there. Sometimes you may call it a project management manager. Sometimes it could be a project leader in there. But at the end of the day, because you are going to be working with people, the project team, you're supposed to have the needed interpersonal skills. So you should be able to work with people, liaise with people, to handle conflicts, negotiations, and all those things, disturbance handling whenever they come up in there. You have the competencies to be able to also run the project. Sometimes you may have to have technical competencies in what you're doing. If you're handling a construction project and you don't even know how to construct something, what do you do? If you're handling a new product entry into the market and you have no idea about the product or how to even go about it, it's going to be chaos. And so sometimes the competencies would have to always be present, and there should also be the responsibility, because someone has to be accountable for it, someone has to be charged of it, and so you have the responsibility as well. So the project manager has responsibilities of one, looking out for the organizational needs. You should also look out for the needs of the various tasks under the project. You should be able to also look out for the needs of the team, and then you should be able to look out for even the individual needs. Because yes, the organization is a bigger picture. In the organization, we may have to break the project or the things we want to do into sub themes. Each themes may have its own tasks that have to be performed. All these tasks will be done by different teams or a team, and this team is going to have what needs in them. And even within the teams are individuals who are also having their own needs, which you'd have to also handle in there. And that's why we said projects are very complex. The complexity, they have a very complex nature. You also have responsibilities of being a link between the strategy and the project, and you should be able to report all updates with regards to the project, when regards to even the team's efforts to stay on track, or plans or course of correction if delays or changes have impacted the project. You may be doing a project and things will happen. We're going to learn project delays. Things happen, and then as a leader, you can either be reactive or proactive. Reactive leaders won't even wait for it to happen. Reactive leaders will wait for it to happen before they take action. But proactive leaders would go on before even the thing happens to find solutions to it. And so whenever they happen, there's a solution to it as well. And so as a project leader or a project manager, you would be in charge of the plans for these actions whenever things would go wrong. You need to be able to report such delays to the other stakeholders as well. You should be able to share progress reports with the various sponsors and other stakeholders. You should be able to create the overall project plan and form the project team members, yes, and determine and track the resources, which is actually needed for each task to be done as well, or by each team in there as well. Other responsibilities of the project manager, which we've grouped under 3 headings or 3 tiers, is 1 at the project level, 2 at the team level, and 3 at the individual level. So at the project level, the project manager is responsible for controlling the budget of the project, and so you need to manage the spending. And so you realize that most project managers are the ones who are going to authenticate any budget or sign any budget for the disbursement of funds within the project, because they are the ones who are going to be answerable for it. And then they delivering the project as planned. Yes, every project has a scope. They have deliverables which you'd have to achieve, and so you have to make sure that you're able to get that result for the owners or the sponsors and other stakeholders. You need to be able to manage the project team on the day-to-day activities and be able to control and configure project management processes as well, to give you that sort of synergy for you to be able to achieve the objectives you have in there. At the team level, the project manager is also responsible for managing all direct team members. Yes, and you're also responsible of initiating project changes. If there's supposed to be changes at the team level, you're supposed to be the one in charge of it. You're supposed to also motivate the project team. Motivation can come in various forms, and it is very necessary. It could be monetary, it could be non-monetary. So sometimes by even buying them lunch and things, you can motivate them. Sometimes by giving them some sort of special tips or something, and sometimes even by giving them more challenging work or promoting some of them, or even pasting the best team member of the day, and all those things can be motivation for them. And then you're also responsible for assigning roles and responsibilities at the team level as well. And at the individual level, you are responsible for making decisions for both the large and small, and you're also responsible for the use of the project management softwares like Microsoft Project, which helps you organize your tasks and workforce. And you also are responsible for the detection of unstated assumptions and resolve all conflicts, as well as more general management skills. So sometimes when you start your project, at the initial stages or in the planning process, Yes, you have your scope, which you've defined in there, your outcomes, your deliverables, and all those things. But there are things that would have to be at play for all these results to be achieved. And these are what we call the assumptions. And some of them we may overlook or may not come into mind. But as and when we realize that we should have stated that assumption, then you may have to what? Go in there and correct it. So a classical example could be that maybe when you came to do your degree, your 4 years degree project, which you are doing that at the end of the 4 years, you get a certificate which you can use for your promotion or something. You calculated that yes, the time frame is 4 years, and in there you had assumptions. Maybe you said that would be possible if for the 4 years you have a good stream of income to be able to pay your fees and all those ones. Those are assumptions you put in place, that if you have the money to be able to pay for the 4 years, obviously you should be able to do it. But maybe you forgot that in the public universities, strikes can come up and even things can happen like COVID, which we didn't expect, and we had to go home for lockdown and things. They can happen. So you may not have added it in there that COVID could come up or something strange could come up, and then there could be a +1 times slot in there as well. So when such things happen and you realize that, oh, those assumptions you didn't state it, then you may have to what? Go in there to what? State it as well. And then conflicts are part of persons, even within yourself as an individual. There are times when there's conflict in there and talk of people, and so you need to be able to manage all of these as well. So competencies of the project manager, like I made mention earlier, every project manager needs to have some sort of competencies which is necessary for the project. And a key competence stands with what? Knowledge. I was making mention that if you have no knowledge in construction and you're handling a project which is heavy construction, you're going to realize that the people you go and pick will do whatever they will do, and you think you've done something, meanwhile you've not done anything. And so in Ghana, we've seen people who have constructed a lot of houses, roads, and things, and even a month after it is something else. We can't write home about it. So the knowledge is very important. What the project manager actually knows about the project matters. Performance is also very key, which is your ability to what? Accomplish while applying your project management knowledge. And the personal aspect also matters. Every project manager, you have your own attributes, personality characteristics, leadership skills, and all these things actually have an influence on even the project team you are working with and how you are going to what? Achieve your objectives and what? Balance your constraints. And so as a project manager, you need to what? Develop or build or work on these competencies. You should have knowledge in the thing you are working on. If you are introducing a new product, you should have some fair knowledge into marketing and what product it is. If you're going to go in the performance as yourself, you should be able to put yourself in the place where you can really what? Execute that task to make sure that that project is what? Successful. And you should look out for some personal things like your personality characteristics, leadership skills, and things to help you work with the people and get the result, which is what? Needed there. And so these are key competencies every project manager needs to work upon. We also made mention of interpersonal skills, and I was telling you that as you're working with people, you need to be able to have what? The interpersonal skills, which is going to help you work with one another in there. And as a project manager, obviously you're a leader, and so you should be able to have what? Some sort of leadership skills. Whether you're going to use, when do you use autocratic, when the people usually may use autocratic when you realize these people are immature or these people don't know much about the project. You need to tell them, do this, do this, do this. But there are some times when you need to let's do more of the democratic. So what do you think? Oh, okay, he's saying this. Okay, I sort of think this. Let's go with this. Let's just mix this up. There are times when you can even sit back and then let the experts work. So the leadership style you do also matters, and so you need to be aware of the various leadership skills you need to possess and how to use them, when to use them. You also need to look at the team building. Teams are not groups. Teams are individuals who have what? Complementary skills which help you what? Achieve a certain task. And so you just don't group people that all the ladies should go and do this, all the guys should go and do this. There should be complementary skills among these people for you to get that task. And so when you are building your team, it's not about favoritism. It's not about I like this person, I don't like this person. These people are the people who hate me. Let me put them into a bad team. That would also affect the project. Motivation matters, something for the boys. That's how sometimes you call it in Ghana. There should be something for the boys in there. It could be monetary, it could be non-monetary. You need to know the kind of people you are in, and a lot of theories of motivation. Some believe that you should, like the Maslow's theory, there are hierarchies in there. If someone is hungry, you want to give the person a TV. What is he going to do with a TV? Give him food first, then later you look at that. So you need to look at even the people you are working with, the context you find yourself, the resources at your disposal. All of this matter before you look at how to motivate them. And communication is key. We've been speaking about communication from our very first slide, that yes, when it comes to project communication, it should be as clear as possible with all the stakeholders. And as a leader or as a manager, you should be able to influence the people you are working with to be able to achieve the result. And you would obviously be making decisions about the project, even when there's supposed to be changes and all those things. And there's also supposed to be that cultural and political awareness. Politics is everywhere. It's in our organizations, in our homes, in our churches, in our mosque. Everywhere there is politics. The culture, the way we do things around everywhere is different. And so you should be aware of your biases and even how to make things work. Which culture would you want to do in there? And you have to be very mindful. These days, you need to be very flexible and adaptive to get the result in there. There's always going to be that sort of negotiation in there. Give this, I'll give you this. No, I won't do this. No, this will not work. This will work. That negotiation has to be looked in as well. There's supposed to be trust building. Yes, if your team is going to work well, we should be able to trust each other that yes, you are supposed to do this task and we trust you to do that task for that time frame. Because if you do yours and I do mine, we'll be able to then go on to the next task in there. But there's sometimes when sometimes when the project stops because one team was supposed to do something and someone in there has not done it, and so we can't go on. But there should be that trust in there as well. And conflict is key. Like I made mention earlier, even as individuals within us, we sometimes have conflict, intrapersonal conflict. And when it comes to people, we are all different from different backgrounds, different exposures, different experiences. And so conflict is one part we can't do away with. And so there's a need for you to be able to manage conflict as and when they come up. And conflict is not necessarily evil. Conflict is actually good. The positive side of conflict is only when it goes to the extreme where there is distraction that conflict is evil. But at the end of the day, whether good or bad, we need to always be able to manage conflict. And we should be able to also coach as well. So you'll be coaching your team, coaching yourself, and coaching the organization in the achievements as well. In this session, we have discussed the project governance roles and responsibilities. Thank you.